What was the weirdest way you got into a relationship? On the original Napster, she had a very rare live track I wanted, and I had the whole back catalog of the same artist that she wanted. I got asked out by the hot skater boy at a party while wasted my freshman year of high school. I thought he was joking. He was super hot, popular, older, and all the girls wanted him, so I said he had to ask me again when he was sober. Next morning he woke up and said, "Well, what do you think? You wanna be my girl?" And here we are, folks, 16 years later, over a decade of marriage and 3 wonderful kids. Craigslist used to have, might still have, a rants and raves section. I posted a long pissed off open letter to how much winter in Chicago sucks. A woman answered it and sarcastically made light of just about everything I posted, and we went back and forth for a few emails before meeting up for drinks. Spent close to 3 years together. In school I drew a lot and would often draw randomly made up people. Once I doodled a pretty girl and the girl sitting next to me asked who she was. I told her she wasn't a specific person, but she thought I was just too shy to say and kept pressing, as well as getting all of the other girls in our class involved. And one of them said she knew her. Some girl who went to a nearby school. So they asked me if that's who it was and if I'd like them to get her to come meet up with me. I said F it, yeah. We met up that weekend and ended up going out for a few months. So, I basically drew a girlfriend into existence. Hit a deer going about 45, knocked one of my headlights out. The car was drivable, but it was dark and foggy in the country. My crush was with me that evening, and after cursing the deer for a solid 10 minutes, I asked if it was okay if she stayed with me that night instead of me potentially wrecking driving her home. She agreed. We got back to my dorm, and I had to use the restroom. I told her I'd fix the bed situation when I got out. I intended to pull the mattress cover off, and let her have the bed for the night while lose the floor. Yeah, she didn't think that. I came out of the bathroom to find her wrapped in my blankets. I asked where I should sleep and she said to just sleep next to her. We ended up cuddling all night and having a tasty campus breakfast date the next morning. We're still together 2 years later. It was an alien-themed birthday party. I knew only the person whose birthday it was. I've also got a neurological condition, which means sometimes I need to take a time out. So I'm sitting in a beanbag leaning against a wall in a full alien morph suit. My time out must have gone for a while, and people who arrived after me thought I was a decoration as I was motionless. This guy trips over my foot. So I moved it. He freaked, and then realized I was a person and came up to apologize. I just gave a thumbs up. Anywho's time passes and I go to get snacks. I take the hood part off and the guy that tripped on me is just staring open-mouthed. He eventually comes up to say he first thought I was a decoration, then thought I was a dude. He then spent the rest of the night getting snacks for me. Lasted a few months. My ex and I got stuck together at his place on our first Tinder date. For 2 months. Met him during a layover I had where he lived and they closed all the borders a few hours before I was supposed to leave. 2020 was a wild time. Is that why he's your ex? Not at all. Lockdown was a blast actually, and I'd say we had a really good synergy living together. We didn't fight or get at each other's throats. Or anything. Also, major shout out to him for letting me stay, cause otherwise I would've probably ended up sleeping in a box under the nearest bridge. Was at a party. Waved at someone I knew. A girl standing between us who was visibly smashed thought I waved at her. She came over and tripped in the last meter. I caught her. That's 10 years ago and we're getting married in August. My ex-wife was the consolation prize in a radio contest. Well, kinda. Used to co-host a morning radio show back in the 90s, and we did a version of the dating game on the air. Just like the classic TV show, we'd have a woman choosing between 3 eligible bachelors, or a man choosing between 3 bachelorettes. The winner would get a date paid for by the station, and the runners-up would get a consolation prize. Part of my job was to coordinate everything between the contestants. This one day, we had the bachelor in the studio, and 3 women on the phone. He picked one for his date. It was tickets to a baseball game and dinner at a nice restaurant. And afterwards I got all the information from the runners-up so that they could get their prizes. One of them sounded really fun on the phone, and we hit it off. Our studio window looked out over the station's lobby, and I told her that if she came in to get her prize while I was still on the air, she should turn and wave at the window. A few hours later, I looked out the window and saw her waving. My first thought was, holy s, she needs a date. Turns out she was pretty hot, and it turns out that I had her phone number. So I called back later and asked her out. Relationship lasted 7 years. 9gag had a chat app called Cookies for a few months. It was basically Twitter for 9gag, and I only used it for a few days. When I posted something, I chatted with a guy for a bit and we found out that we were both from Germany. We kept talking on WhatsApp, but I had some family and mental health issues, which is why we didn't write with each other for over a year. When I wrote him again apologizing for my distant behavior, we started talking again. We've been dating for over 5.5 years now. Friend was having a 17th birthday party and invited a ton of people from various schools. My friend called me up to arrange transportation and for some reason put me on the phone with some other rando. Had a random conversation about nothing and got on with my day. Added him on ICQ. Oh, yeah, I am old. A few days before the party. At the party, when I met him face to face, I insulted him, didn't speak to him at all, and made out with another guy. 3 days later he rings me up and asks me out. Dated for about 6 months. I loved him so much. My first love, really. It broke me when we broke up. FFW 7 years, and we're in MSN Messenger time. He randomly contacts me one day, and we start hanging out as friends again. We're clearly in a relationship, but he won't call me his girlfriend or put a label on anything. 1.5 years and we do everything together. He calls me his missus but not his girlfriend. Okay, weirdo. We go for a drive as we were known to do one day, driving up the coast trying to beat a storm. He pulls over at one of my favorite lookouts, and we watch the storm go out to sea. He gets down on one knee, and asks me to marry him. I push him over onto his arse, but of course, say yes. Married for 12 years. A guy, H, I knew kept teasing me and another guy friend, A, about getting together, even though we weren't romantically interested. He would not stop joking about it and even told a bunch of our teachers that this guy and I were dating. It got to a point where I was so fed up with it, I actually asked A out. I thought H would have been pretty delighted by seeing that we finally got together, but he was so pissed we ruined his joke and that he cut us off. A and I dated for about 2-ish years and we're still friends though. I was in the hospital for 11 or 12 days once, and one of my attending doctor's residents was super hot. Sometimes she'd hang back to ask me questions and give me those little exams, or show up for whatever reason alone, and I'd use those chances to try to chat her up. It's the hardest I've even locked in and tried to bring my A game with a woman Emma, and I was nailing it, making her laugh and getting her to talk a lot. I was like Michael Jordan in the flu game. When I got discharged, my doctor wanted to meet me in the lobby and she was there too for some reason. Then my doctor took off and it's just us, and I'm like, it's now or never buddy, so I just asked her out on a date and by some miracle she said yes. She threw up in my bed after taking a nap there without asking me on my New Year's party. Hard to say no to that. Was holding tryouts to join our clan in StarCraft around the year 2000. She joined our game and it was decided I would 1 versus 1 her while the rest of our clan watched. I kicked her ass and we agreed she could join up with us if she still wanted to. Turned out I couldn't stand her and tried to avoid her like the plague. Somehow started talking over AOL Instant Messenger and ended up learning she was a 4-hour drive away in the state next door. Things fell into place and we ended up in a long-distance relationship at the tender age of 16. We celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary this last September. Can still kick her ass in video games. Work did a mandatory fun evening at a bar. My then girlfriend came in with a good-looking woman, walks past the group I'm with, goes to the bar and proceeds to order 2 shots of tequila and drinks them off her friend's breasts. She then waves me over, some shenanigans happen and in the morning tells me I'm dumped but her friend is single. That lasted about a year. I got traded. I erased my Tinder because I wasn't into just hookups, and right before I erased it I matched with a cute girl and just said to text me if she wanted because I was going to erase my Tinder. She did, but only to be my friend, and literally 2 months later we started dating. Now she's my best friend and girlfriend coming up to 3 years. I was at a college party and it's Ed. It was right around the time of Jerry Maguire. and I thought it'd be funny to yell this party SS, I'm going home to drink vodka and all I want to know is who's coming with me. Then I stormed out, because I didn't know anyone at the party, or have any reason at all to expect someone to come with me. Once I was out of the building, on the sidewalk, I noticed a girl following behind me. We dated for 4 years. My dad had a heart attack. In the hospital I ran into someone I had gone to high school with working as an aide. We had coffee in the cafeteria when she went on break. I asked her out and she turned me down. 6 months later she called and asked me out. A friend came over to watch some YouTube and play Mario Kart. We ended up having sex on the floor instead. My housemate and I drunkenly slept together one night. We got married last June. Oh my god, they were roommates. She showed up at my house and didn't leave. You dated a puppy, ... Went to the hospital with a broken bone. Made Star Wars jokes to the doctor. He called a week later, to ask how I was. I couldn't remember his name so I had to look it up in my medical records. Found him on Facebook and sent him a message asking him out. ETA, coming up on 10 years together, married with 2 kids. My roommate's girlfriend and her friend stayed at our place for a week during a snowstorm. The friend and I stayed up late talking one night, then we were cuddling on the couch watching The Princess Bride the next. We only dated for a month, but I thought it interesting how near complete isolation with someone who's practically a stranger can result in y'all having a relationship days later. I had a profile on one of those sites where you had profiles, and you could use it for dating, but many people didn't. I don't even remember what site it was, but it was so shitty and old you had to link your pictures, couldn't even upload them. Checked my email one day and this girl messaged me. Looked at her profile and she was very cute. We talked and it wasn't for like an hour she told me that I didn't even have pictures, but had an awesome profile. I forgot I had redone my folders on my website that linked from, or that I had even joined the site. Talked for a couple of months, went to an amusement park. I ended up moving near her. I was originally from there, and we started dating. She ended up bats insane. Good times. I started casually seeing a girl, and the second time we slept together, she woke up to a text that her room area had bed bugs. I said she could crash at my place until they got rid of them. Shouldn't be more than a week. Took 2 years. Friend of mine organized a double date with me and one of her work colleagues. Double date turned into a quadruple date, with me and my date as the only single people there. Worked out though, we got married in early 2020. When I got my job 9 years ago, the developer in the team started talking about anime with me. She was very nerdy and so was I, so we clicked. It was when we were stood in McDonald's waiting for our lunch that she mentioned a hentai title I immediately recognized and called her out on it. We then proceeded to make plans to watch it. Neither of us drive, and we didn't check the last bus home either, so she offered to share her bed with me since it was now midnight. Cue me finally losing my V-card at 20. Lovely girl, bit crazy. Had a great relationship and now we just remain best friends. Trust her with my life. At 16 I was cheated on by my ex after a year and a half long manipulate relationship, so a month later I wanted to forget about all the pain and get trashed. My friend held a party at his, and his friend knew he had a thing for me. So while wasted he told me to go kiss him, and that's all I remember until I woke up in his bed the next morning. He was cuddling me and I had his teddy, which he never let anyone touch. He told me that my ex messaged me wanting to get back together and I lost it and needed space, so he let me de-stress in his room. I asked him to stay with me so I wouldn't be alone and I fell asleep on him. So he looked after me all night, making sure I had food and water when I woke up. At 3:14 a.m. after we had this talk we agreed to try dating since we liked hanging out already. As we were friends. 10.5 years on, 3 kids, a house and a wedding, this still proves to be the best drunken decision ever. A friend kept me late on Valentine's Day in Tokyo. We were at a Skyrise bar. He was visiting from Brazil and really wanted to meet a lady. I just wanted to get home and rest. I was a good host and kept him company until the trains were about to end. At my station, I was walking down a narrow street, along canals with many beautiful trees. A small bar with maybe 10 seats was glowing from outside. I was drawn to the place. I stared for what seemed like an eternity inside. Just standing there, waiting, I didn't know why. I had lived at this station for 5 years or so. I never stopped at this place. A lady outside the bar, she was on the phone. I hadn't noticed her. She asked me to join her inside. I did. It was her birthday. The relationship lasted 7 years. I had a female friend, say ex, with whom I talked frequently. We were just casual friends, no romantic feelings were involved. She had a boyfriend, say Y. Now Y had a doubt in his mind that X and me are involved romantically. So he asks one of his female friend, say Z, to talk with me, befriend me, and find out the truth. Z messages me. We hit it off well. Around a month later I get to know the truth. Z apologized and told me that although her initial intention was something else, she has really grown into me and that she has cut off contact with Y. It's been 5+ years together with Z. We were at the beach with some members of our church. I was brand new to the area and only knew like 3 people. She was asking if any of the girls could braid her hair so it would stay out of her face. None of them knew how to braid someone else's hair. I awkwardly said that I could braid hair and she was shocked. Didn't hang out the whole time, but we exchanged numbers after I did a pretty good job considering the setting. Love her to death, and we're still together. A partner that can braid your hair is a treasure. 3 or 4 years ago I was posting naughty pics in a Gone Wild subreddit. Got a message from an interesting guy looking for an online masturbation partner. I moved halfway across the country and married him last year. How do you explain to people how you met? Are you just upfront or do you make it up? I just tell people we met on Reddit. Keep it simple and don't go into detail. In 9th grade I was a loud obnoxious girl that would say the stupidest s because it was funny. Me and my equally as obnoxious friend was on our way to a good OL pep rally when I saw this lone guy walking in. So I decided I'd introduce myself. Hi, my name is Petter, shake my effing hand. My name was not Petter and who in their right mind would shake my hand. He did and it was like a chill button had been pushed. Here we are going on 15 years with 2 kids. I'm still weird as hell, without being obnoxious, but he doesn't seem to care. My husband was my first real boyfriend, not my first experiences though I just was a bit commitment shy. We met when we were 20 and were interested in each other from the get-go. We wanted to watch Scott Pilgrim on our second date but the TV broke so we made out. We were both quite awkward around each other because we were both so excited and in love but didn't know what the other one wanted. So, we sat on his couch and I asked him to give me a Mars chocolate bar and he said only if you will be my girlfriend, so I said deal. Been together for 10 years now, and damn, best Mars bar I ever had. She was kinda crazy, shoulda figured so cause of the pickup line which was are you a toaster cause I wanna take a bath with you. We started hanging out and we started dating, broke up weeks later after she started making jokes about my family. I drew a picture of him on an unusual night out. He was a stranger to me, and then ignored him. Later when I finally sat down, he went right for me and we have been together ever since. I had a friends with benefits situation going on and she gave me COVID December 2020. We quarantined together for 2 weeks watching movies, playing video games and ordering food. We never looked back. So she trapped me with biological warfare essentially and I'm not mad. Got caught F-ing my best mate's sister at a party by him. Told him we had been dating for a while. We hadn't, just F-ed. He brought it. 7 years later we were married with kids. I was in high school, chilling alone during break time. My best friend came over to say hi and have some small talk with me. Another girl, same class with me, was following her. When she left she does some secret inside joke, which is about only a dog would date me. Don't ask why that's our inside joke, it's complicated. The girl who is following my best friend suddenly said the same inside joke to me. I was shocked but responds to her that then why don't you date me to break this curse of only a dog would ever date me. I'm sure I'm not that bad. They laugh and leave. The next day, the same girl texted me and from that point on we're in a relationship. My partner and I are having a discussion in public about wanting a girlfriend and our waitress comes over and asks if we both think she's cute. She's been one of our sex friends for over 3 years now. She was getting kicked out of her home because she was not welcomed by the landlord. Rather than living with strangers, I took her in and love her to this day. I wasn't expecting to get a puppy in 2019, but boy does she make me happy. As for my wife, I met her at work. My wife and I met on a blind date set up by a mutual acquaintance. The weird part is the mutual acquaintance did it in belief that it would fail and make me more attracted to her for helping. She hasn't spoken to either of us since about 2 weeks after we became an item. Been together for 17 years now and married for 13. In year 2, when getting dressed for the nativity, a boy leaned over and whispered, "You're my girlfriend," and gave me a daisy chain. I went on a first date with a man I had just met. As he dropped me back off at home afterwards, his car broke down in my driveway. It was not able to be fixed without buying new parts, and the auto parts stores were now closed. He was incredibly embarrassed. After about 2 hours of his attempts to reach friends with no luck, I hesitantly told him he could sleep on my couch until he could call a tow/friend in the morning. He offered to walk to a hotel, but I insisted. I had never had a boy at my house before, and though he seemed nice enough, I wasn't taking chances. Locked my bedroom door and tried to fall asleep. Ended up feeling so nervous about a man in my house that I went out to check if he was still there. 30 minutes later, he was wide awake, and we ended up talking/laughing until 7 a.m. I ended up adoring him, and couldn't get enough. We've been together for years now and spend our free time in the garage working on our shared hobby, fixing up cars. I met a guy on an Emma Watson fan site, in the chat room, when I was 14. Then randomly bumped into him at a museum in San Diego when we were 19. Neither of us lived in California. It wasn't a romantic relationship, but a friendship. Went to a friend's house to help with a study guide. Ended up hitting it off with a friend there. Spent 4 weeks doing a summer break activity thing. Go away for 2 weeks, spend a week planning a volunteer stuff and a week executing the volunteering. At first not much happened, but our friend groups started to merge as one of my friends went to the same primary school as hers. First conversation we had was me making a joke that all I could see of her in a canoe was her legs while my friend was on top of her. He was getting her in the boat and they fell. We started talking more in that first week and exchanged numbers. I never tried anything because there were a few guys chasing, including 2 other friends, and I never thought much of myself. Well, on the bus ride home on weekend, she says next to me on a 6-hour journey, and we talked for most it and napped on each. The second week we were at an RAF base, and every morning I was the first person awake and would sit on a wall outside enjoying the sun with my arms spread wide. Every morning she sat next to me, practically in my arms. My dumb ass had no idea she fancied me, and I was doing everything in my power not to fancy her for the sake of other friends. One night when we were all sent to bed, we were given 2 minutes alone by an instructor so we could say a personal good night. We were so confused until it clicked and we were already kinda dating in the way we acted with each other. That was my first and longest relationship. Still have massive respect for her and hope she's happy. Shouting hey from the other side of a street. I had come across a profile of somebody in the same small town as me on an unusual website I was really into. We chatted a bit, he met me at my work, and one day I finally had the courage to leave the abusive relationship I was in, so I showed up at his place asking for a safe space to stay for a while. Ended up dating and living together for 8 months before I moved away for school and things began to unravel from dating long distance. My friends made me go out to get over a bad breakup. I met him at a bar my friends took me to. We were married 1 month later. Been happily married now for 24 years. It's weird to me because I was never one to jump into a relationship, much less get married. Was drunk at a bar. Jokingly got on a knee to propose to my coworker, being silly. Girl at table next to me got excited thinking we were serious and said she was a justice of the peace and could marry us. Ended up jokingly proposing to this new girl at the end of the night. We ended up engaged for 2 years after that. It was brief, but I was in line buying groceries and the girl in front realized she left her purse at home. I said to just Venmo me and I'll pay, and she did, and we went on our way. A few hours later she Venmo'd me again $1 with her number. We saw each other a few times but nothing more. I'm still so shocked about the grocery pickup though to this day. Female. Worked in a restaurant that hired some foreign contractors as employees for really low wages. One day I was carrying a 50 bag of sugar up some stairs on my shoulder, dry storage was downstairs, and one of them stopped me on the stairs and said in broken English, "Kiss me, baby." Went to the chef, got him fired, which meant he was shuffled off to another restaurant in the area that hired illegal contractors from the same company. A year or so passes and guess who gets shuffled back into our kitchen? Same guy, but with a better haircut and better language skills. It's been 19 plus years, our daughter is 16, and we still love to travel together. Met a girl while exploring a creepy abandoned insane asylum at 3 a.m. We were both there with separate groups. Neither group was aware of the other group's presence, but we kept hearing one another moving around and scared half out of our minds because we each assumed the other was crazed hobos or criminals using the place as a hideout or something. Anyway, our groups kept getting closer and closer to one another while trying to figure out how to get out. I turned a corner, saw a face, and nearly brained this poor girl with the baseball bat I was carrying before I realized it was just a bunch of scared college kids same as us. We had a good laugh about it, me and the girl hit it off, and ended up dating for a couple of years.